Hey guys, Hazza here, welcome back. We've had a week off within Northern Europe to process what we've seen in the season so far. Reaching the halfway point, the teams are still grinding behind the scenes to make sure that with playoffs undecided, that their season is heading in the right direction. I've taken this time to record a new interview for you all with a player who's new to the region but has experience winning Challengers titles in both DAC and Italy. With those under his belt, he now leads the newly rebuilt Metizport roster into a season where they're expected to be underdogs. I was lucky enough to speak with Hearthbeat. Hearthbeat, welcome to the video. For those who don't know you as you're fresh on the Polaris scene, if you could introduce yourself for us all.
Hi guys, I'm Hearthbeat. I'm the IGL for Metizport. I'm 24 years old and I'm Italian.
Well, firstly, welcome to the region. I know that you guys have been having a week off, as we all have. How exactly have you been spending your time? You're probably bored of breaks by now after the 7th month off season, but a little bit of extra time, how have you been putting it to use?
It's nice to have this week. Of course, we are a bit bored, no official, but we've been putting it into preparing some maps that people maybe don't expect, or fixing up little touches to maps to prepare for formulation game.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to it, and obviously it has quite a bit of weight on where your season ends up going. To start from the beginning, though, before we dive into the specifics and everything that's going on with the region at the moment, I have to ask you firstly, where exactly did your name come from? Because I know a lot of the casters like to do the play on words about the heartbeat and stuff like that, but it's slightly different with the word hearth, and my assumption is that hearth is to do with a fire. Is there any kind of, link there?
I really wish. I was just really bad at English when I was 16. That's it.
That's it. And it's stuck ever since. You didn't feel like there was a reason to change it at all?
When I made the switch between Overwatch and Valorant, I wanted to change the age, but my manager back then told me that
the branding was too strong. You just had to stick.
Yeah, not the branding is too strong, but if you look for heartbeat, like normal heartbeat, of course you're gonna find like a human heartbeat.
Yeah.
If you look at with the age, it's gonna be more likely that you find me.
Okay.
Or that Google says, you took it wrong, it's Hearthbeat, don't worry.
The more popular of the two, of course. You already spoke about it a little bit there, but I was about to ask your background in esports. You said you started in Overwatch then. Is that where everything began, and how did you get into it in the first place?
Yeah, pretty much esports started for me in Overwatch. I competed there in Tier 3 for a long time. Then I got the chance to play for the World Cup in Italy twice, and from there I jumped into Tier 2, played in contenders, but it was pretty short-lived because then Valorant came out and I was like, I actually like this way more than Overwatch, and so I jumped the ship pretty much.
You mentioned it a little bit there as well. Italy is a region which is heavily underrepresented within esports. What is it that you can say about some of the talent that you've left behind in the region this year?
I think there's lots of promising players. I don't know if we're ever gonna have like a full Italian team because roles clash, personalities clash, but I think there's some pretty strong players left in VCL Italy. Both can be any role, honestly, right now. So especially from Desire, I think the two Italian players in Desire are looking great.
Yeah, any names that you would mention specifically, like Caden, for example?
Yeah, for sure, Caden, Tag, I think Bipo, Alan, Nice are all like good players. I think I like Brazo playing for Outplayed right now. I think he has a really good aim. So there's lots of like promising talent.
Yeah, plenty of former teammates in there as well, actually. Yeah. And something to speak about next would be, I was doing a bit of research. I saw you were born in the year 2000, same year as me, so Year of the Dragon. Hopefully it'll be a lucky year for us both. And you're an IGL as well, and at 23 years of age, that's not a role which we really see too often. Was it a natural fit for you? Was it something that you were maybe shoehorned into with your teammates, or how exactly did that come about?
It's funny because my personality back then was not suited for IGL. Like I've always been a creative guy. I like to express myself a lot, but coming in the game, like in Overwatch, I was just calling who to kill. was just screaming the name of the guy I was shooting. I never IGL'd or anything. And then in Valorant, when I started, I wasn't IGL. But it happened in Angry Titans that we were pretty much in a crisis, where in the very first iteration of the roster, we were like, we want another IGL. And I was like, well, you know what, I'm gonna try, why not? So I started watching, I remember, like 2-3 VODs a day. It was some crazy timing. And from there I learned. But it was very random, like we were just trying people in the team to see who can IGL. And it looked like I actually enjoyed it a lot. So from there I stick to it. It's really fun. I think playing as an IGL is another kind of feeling to the game. It's like another more enjoyment than getting a kill or something.
Yeah, an extra layer of control as well that you have on the influence of the play. Just to ask very quickly then as well, you said it was during your time at Angry Titans. Was that while you were building the roster, halfway through the season? What point did that come in?
It was halfway, so I think we did the roster in February, April, somewhere in between those months. And then 6 months passed. This is in 2021, by the way. And then, like around August, we wanted to make changes in the team, and we picked up some new players, and I started also IGLing in the same time, and it somehow worked out. I feel like we got really lucky with our choices back then.
Yeah, that roster made it really far. You guys got to the VRL finals where you lost to the eventual winners, Foot, who now, of course, play in VCT with the core of the roster that they had at that point in time, which feels crazy to even think about. It was your debut in a cross-regional event, especially as an IGL as well. What was the biggest thing that you learned from that experience, playing with some of those teams?
I think biggest thing was just handling all the different styles, so being mindful of the possible anti-strat. It just everything gets amped up, and you're like, it's really easy to overthink. Oh, they saw this default. Oh, they know this micro play we do. Maybe we shouldn't do it. Where maybe you shouldn't overthink as much. Like especially when you see other teams, they stick to what they were doing. Like when we won DAC and we wanted to go in the finals, we switched pretty much every comp, thinking, they can anti-strat us, they can do this, they can do that. While the biggest thing I learned from that experience was just do your thing, do it very well, and it's not gonna matter that they anti-strat you if you're a good player. You're gonna understand in the very first rounds, they're playing against my playstyle. Just call us something completely different, and all of their anti-strat is out of the window. Yeah, they got around on you, but you can get more on them.
It must be really difficult to prepare for that kind of event, especially in EMEA when you have so many different stylistic types of play. It leads nicely into a question I want to ask from what you said. How exactly do you prepare for that kind of event? Is it what you said there about really focusing on yourself as a team, the fundamentals, and making sure that's all in check? Or do you go a little heavier on the ante, maybe bring in a coach? Is that where you get the most value out of them?
So in Angry Titans, we went down the anti-strat rule road pretty much back then. We tried to, we watched literally every team's VOD we knew we were gonna face. So we watched everybody in our group, and then we made an assumption of who's gonna pass in the other group, and we watched those VODs, and we prepped. Pretty much we were practicing while thinking, this team is gonna do this default. So we weren't really thinking what our actual enemy was doing, which honestly wasn't bad. We got a good run. With GMT, when we went in the play-ins for Ascension, since so many teams were possible to play, we just was like, okay, we're gonna focus on ourselves. It's the only way. We cannot like check everybody constantly. So I think both things are viable. It really depends on what your team is comfortable with. If you're a team that is capable of playing many different styles, you can switch roles in and out if you don't care. Probably anti-stratting or like changing yourself for the enemy team is the best. Maybe kind of what Navi does, where like I remember watching an interview from Boaster saying that you never know what Navi is gonna do because they can do everything. They're unpredictable.
It's
so
yeah,
cool style.
Really great insight that you give there as well, because it's so difficult to put yourself in the shoes of the IGL. And I'm actually glad that you mentioned Boaster, because coming out of the Angry Titans team in the off-season during 2022, you went to a Milan Games Week, and Boaster was there, Leah was there, Durka was there. It was only a brief encounter because you were playing a show match together. But is there anything that you were able to pick up from those guys being around them, although it was such a brief point in time?
Even though it was a show match, I understood, especially Derke, but I mean, they're all insane players. But Derke really started me because he can talk so much as a duelist. And when I saw that, I kind of understood that if I want to have, if I want to grow a duelist, I need to grow him into the direction of being talkative. So like, not only just reading, like saying, oh, I'm gonna pick short, I'm gonna do this, you know, like actually reading the macro together with the IGL and being in it all the time, thinking what the enemies can do, having all these macro adjustments. Like Derke really struck me as, wow, this guy is so vocal and he shoots so well and he's thinking about the game so much. It's crazy. I need to give this to my future duelist somehow.
It's a really close bond that Durka and Boaster have, and I imagine that's what you saw in the server as well, because you think they've been together since Reykjavik. It's like the main core of that FNATIC team. So, you know, another point that you raised, which I find really interesting about having a duelist player that is always, you know, asking for utility, doing things like that, but then also reading the macro scope of the game as well. And speaking of your teammates, you kept the core from the Angry Titans team, then moving to Italy with GMT. Was it always the plan for you guys to go back to Italy, or was it heavily affected by the changes for the 3/5 rule? I know that LTR kind of did give you guys the option to probably keep playing in DAC, but what was the thought process as the group?
I mean, we wanted to keep playing together as much as possible. Sadly, it was not possible from Angry Titans' side, so we had to split apart. And then LTR really did change things all the time. I went in Kaze, then Chris mentioned needed, so I had to go. And then in GMT, they were looking to play either in France or Italy, and they weren't sure really where they could go because both spots weren't like 100% confirmed. So they were. It was a bit of a fate where they needed the Italians, and me and Bipo were literally teamless in the moment they needed the Italians. So everything meshed up somehow.
Yeah, just call in the Italian reinforcements, right? They come in on the Stallion with the Ferraris and all of that. Exactly. Easy, just as you needed it. So then into GMT, it was actually a successful team. You guys won the first split of the Italian league after losing to Desire in the two previous matchups that you had during the regular season. How were you able to turn it around? What really went into making that happen?
That's a good question because I have no clue. No, it's crazy. Like, we lost so many scrims coming up to that final. We weren't confident at all. We just went into the LAN thinking we do our best, and that's it. That LAN didn't really matter compared to the LAN that was gonna happen afterwards. But somehow on LAN we were demons. Like, everybody was playing the best they ever did. Everybody was so comfortable with each other. We were just being chilling, one would say. And it's crazy because then in the split after, the reverse happens during the regular season. We're super confident. We're winning scrims. We're doing everything, and then we go LAN and we face a wall.
It is tough, man. And I was about to ask as well, you know, what did go wrong with Split 2? But before we get to that point, I suppose something I can say is that you just described two situations where you're playing the majority of the year online and then you go into the offline setting. How does it feel to make that jump when you're closed away for so long in the year to finally be out? And, you know, you've seen both sides of it, right? It's gone right, it's gone wrong. What makes the difference between those two instances?
It's completely different, of course. It's like it's a whole different world. If you have enough experience, you understand how to isolate yourself. I'm a guy that tunnel visions a lot. Back then, it was a problem. But over the years, I managed to transform this tunnel visioning into something good, where I can tunnel vision just on the game. So when I'm on LAN, I usually just, focus really, really hard on my monitor. And if I have to look away, I'm just looking at the fist bump, nothing else. I'm actively just focusing on monitor and nothing else. I don't want to look at crowd. I don't want to look around or anything, because for me, the number one objective is to make just to think that I'm at home and I'm playing and it doesn't matter. It's just a scrim. I'm going to focus. I'm going to try to win this performance scrim.
The way that you describe it reminds me a little bit of meditation. I don't know if that's something that you've done at all or not.
I've tried it. Not my best.
Okay. Yeah, it's like the tightrope walker, right? When you're up at the top and you're trying to walk across the thin ledge, you don't want to look down below you, or you're worried that you might fall. So, yeah, again, I think, you're giving some really interesting answers. I don't think I've had too many people who posture it in the way that you do, but being locked in, of course, is very important. The next big tournament that you then had to play, and in such a short turnaround, I imagine it must have been a pain in the ass, was play-ins. The format was a bit tough as well. It was all best of ones. You guys went out on round differential, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a future for this kind of competition in the region? Would you like to see play-ins again? And if so, what would you change about it to make it more accessible?
I think it was heartbreaking, that tournament, because we are winning 10-2 to Rad, and then we are about to make it out first in the groups, and then we don't make it even as second. We're last. So all our hopes got destroyed. We choked, so it's on us. Oh, that's my cat.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, that format was honestly really bad. But I understand from Riot that there wasn't the time to make it perfect. And it's kind of a last chance. It's a chance you shouldn't be given anyway, because you should have came first in the VCL. So I see that point of view, but at the same time, just 3v1s like that, it's crushing. It's really crushing for the player. It really destroys you. Just 3v1s and you're done. Your career is over. No, not the career is over, but your journey for the year is over. See you in the next year. 7 months of off season. Vamos.
It does feel like that, right? There's just such a big gap between one and the other. What would you change about the format then if you were to present it again? Other than like the BO1s to a BO3, is there any other way that you do it? And do you want to see more inter-regional competitions in the middle of the season maybe?
I think inter-regional competitions are amazing. Like it's not only amazing for the players, but it would be amazing for like regions and fans. It's like I feel like you can build such crazy storylines, because imagine you have 2 events that are like between split 1 and split 2 and after split 2, and you can build the storylines where Italy faced France, just to say as a very easy stereotype, and we faced multiple times, and this amount of times this team won against, like Italy won against France, and you can build like such amazing stories, while the players also love this type of format, like facing other VCLs, because for like 6 months you're always facing the same 8 or 10 teams, and it gets really boring really fast. I think for sure having some kind of cross region would be amazing.
I completely agree with you there, and I think something else as well is that the spectacle of the Ascension final that we saw last year, Gentlemates versus Apeks, would have been even crazier if people had known ahead of time that they were scrimming each other, 10, 15, 20 times before that matchup ended up happening, and ended up with Apeks losing after they'd won all of that those matches in their history, essentially. So we've spoken a lot about Italy already, and just to wrap it up quickly, do you see yourself returning to that scene in the future? That's either as a player, maybe a coach, or in some other kind of capacity, or do you think that the future for you really does sit within a mixed team in different regions?
This is a really tough question. I think it will never know for sure. It's unlikely I return to Italy, because I feel like right now in this mixed team I'm having like really positive mindset, both as an IGL and as an individual player. I feel like I'm performing the best I've ever performed right now. So maybe mixed teams are my big strength instead of like heavily Italian favored ones.
Yeah, and so you're a champion in Italy, of course, and DAC. Now moving into your third region, how would you compare it to the other two? That can be stylistically, maybe the vibes in the team like you already spoke about. What are some of the differences that you've already noticed over these last 3 or 4 weeks?
I think DAC was the most developed one back then. Like, definitely the hardest. There were many good teams that, you know, they all developed their own style in like a good way. You could see they thought about the map and stuff. Then Italy, I was a lot of signed teams. Just in Italy, you cannot not have an org, so it's maybe orgs that just pick them up just to have them. So it was similar to the unsigned teams of Polaris, where sometimes they're just doing some crazy stuff you don't expect. And then in Polaris, like some of these unsigned teams are crazy. They do stuff you wouldn't expect. Maybe defaults that you think they would go another way, but they actually are completely changed. So it's more of a, I feel like the more you're unsigned, the more you're gonna tinker with the game, playing a bit more out of the way, I guess.
As an IGL, it's your job to read the game. Do you prefer that more organized style that you had in DAC? It was definitely a reason for your success, I suppose, if you look at how far that team went. Or do you thrive within the chaos that you're currently experiencing?
So in DAC, we were controlled. We played double initiator a lot. In GMT, we played a lot of duelist and cuckoo stuff. So I have both experiences. I feel like the controlled is where I strive the most. When I can, I'm good at reading the book, especially if somebody is trying to play default versus default. I watched so many VODs, so of course I have a better feeling. But chaos is fun. Until you're losing, and then it becomes really, really boring.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a pretty chaotic start in Polaris as well. And one criticism I think that people had of the Metizport team is that sometimes it looked like you guys were a little more reliant on your individual performances, such as yourself, even last week. Would you say that this is maybe a confidence-related issue within the team, or just overall consistency levels and people getting up to speed?
It's about consistency, really. Like we can see it even in scrims. There are scrims where we're very sharp, really good reactions. We talked about in VOD review. We are keeping up with stuff. Everybody's remembering their own role and stuff. And then there are other scrims where that doesn't happen so much. And of course, it translates into officials, where there are maps where we are playing exactly how we prepped the map, the game plan against that team. And then there are maps where we know what we should be doing, but it really doesn't happen. We are sloppy, we are doing mistakes. So yeah, in my opinion, it's just about consistency right now, because we know what we have to do. We know we have what it takes to do both the individuality and the teamwork. We just need to bring it out on a consistent base. And then whenever that doesn't happen, I guess the individuality is gonna play a big role into helping us win.
With that knowledge in mind, I have to pose the question, when exactly did you get the call up to join this team? Were you one of the early parts of this project? I know that it's a rebuild essentially because the core that was existing there before has left. Or did you have a little bit more time to set this one up? Have you been learning on the fly? What was the implementation like and how did this opportunity come about?
Everything was very quick and last minute. So that Artisan thing happened where the team exploded for financial reason from the org, and then we were all like left stranded at the end of December in the middle of Christmas. So I think Metizport came about. It was like basically the last days of December. We did one tryout, and then in start of January we made the team, and we started screaming like the second week of January, because some people were sick. So it was very, very like quick, with a few decisions made, but good ones, I think.
With the names that come in as well alongside you, both Dreamass and Vong, do you feel a lot of expectation on yourselves as players, not just from the fans, but from the organization side as well?
I think the expectations comes directly from within us. Like anything else than second place and above, we are not happy with. Like we have what it takes. Each one of us wants something, and we know how to reach that end goal. So we work hard to get it, and we wanna. Of course, Apeks is an amazing team with ex tier 1 players, so we are being realistic of what we can do. But it's not like we are gonna just put ourselves down or anything like that. We're gonna try to get to the best with what we have.
I feel like I can bring together a few of the different answers you've given now to really build a picture of what Metizport looks like as a team and what your role is really within that, how central it is to it, the controlled style. Maybe one of the reasons why Sweet and Sour was a difficult opponent for you guys into that first week. Of course, it wasn't an easy start. Since then, the results have looked more convincing. Would you then say that because this was also a late move for yourself as well, that it's a learning process in split 1 and that all of the focus really is on that second split?
Yeah, this was the main talk at the start of practice, really. I made exactly that speech where split 1, if I read the rulebook correctly, it matters just to have the points to reach playoff split 2. So we are a new team. We have so many different styles. We have Damien's Poland coming up to tier 2 now. We have Dreamers that has lots of experience, Vong as well has lots of experience. So split 1 is all going to be about finding what works for us, what is our style, learning, bringing up Damien's Poland in like our way of thinking, all of that kind of stuff. Secure the points for split 2 and then do a really good split 2.
Something that you can definitely take away from your time on GMT is the difference between those two splits. Would you say that your individual expectations are the same as they were last year as well? Is it to be making it straight through that Ascension spot by the time split 2 comes, or are you focusing on just being as competitive as you can every playday?
I think both, really. Like, I want to be as competitive as I can be, because I hate losing. I want to win. It doesn't matter who I'm playing, I want to win. And of course I want to play in Ascension. It's something I missed out last year. Like, I didn't really count playing as Ascension. For me it was a different tournament. So I'd love to make Ascension, and I think in LAN everything can happen. So it doesn't matter. Even if, let's say, Apeks crush us in some part of the playoffs and then we come back, we do go to grand final and we meet in LAN, I don't think it's so sure that they win. Anything can happen, really.
Do you think that you're going to be able to compete with Apeks this year? It feels like a bit of a loaded question, or this split, I should say, specifically. Or are we going to maybe have to wait until split 2 to see the full version of Metizport realized and the competition that maybe some people thought coming into this season?
We'll see. I think we'll know it for real in playoffs, because the Apeks match is gonna be our last match, and by that time playoffs will be secured already. So I doubt both teams will show anything worth, really. It's very likely both of us will just play all the defaults, all stuff, and keep the real juice, let's call it like that, for playoffs. So I think playoffs will really tell us if we can compete with them or not. All I know is that we're going to put in the effort, try our best, and see where that leads. Of course, we want to be as competitive as possible.
You're hiding some of the secret sauce. Is there anything that you can show to us at all? Maybe any hints that you'd like to drop here? Feel free to say as much or as little as you want. Mouth closed? Okay.
No.
Next question then. As an IGL, you did have a very strong performance that we saw literally just the other day, right? Would you say that you have focused a lot on your mechanics then when you're calling? Or is this something that you're not really thinking about? You're focusing on literally just calling the macro and then playing your own game?
I think I was just playing, really. Like, it's not like I've been focusing more mechanics. I always do my routine. I just play a lot of deathmatch. I like playing that. It helps me being confident, and now I was focusing on calling. And at a certain point, I realized, wait, I'm over 20 kills right now. What's happening? Like, I didn't realize at the start. And yeah, I was just being very, very confident in that series. I knew we weren't gonna lose, especially after playing Bind, where yeah, you want a hint, a little secret.
Yeah.
We never practice Bind.
Okay, all right. Hey, I got it. I managed to get it out of you in the end, even if it was you sort of like self-reporting it on yourself there. But I guess something to say then would be like, when you do find yourself popping off in the server, as the IGL, as the one calling, what is it that you can do to motivate your teammates to sort of step it up? Are you like, guys, come on, I'm not the one that's supposed to be fragging right now. Let's see a little bit more, or is there a more passive way of saying that probably doesn't sound as aggressive?
It's more passive. I never go the aggressive way. It never works. In my experience, just saying fake words of encouragement doesn't work. I focus more on if somebody's doing even just one kill, but I can give them like some boost, I'll do it. I'm spectating somebody and maybe he's not doing so much well and he does a kill, I'm like, nice shot. Just this, I don't fake it and just nice shot. And I feel like it's more the little things that help, especially like bring somebody back or untilt them, than trying to make a big speech, because not everybody reacts well to big speeches, but little things influence you without you realizing it.
No, the focus on the details is important, and not sugarcoating it as well, I think, is a good view to have in the team perspective. So to wrap up the interview as a whole and looking towards the future, what support is it that you've had from Metizport, and can we maybe see you guys at a boot camp later on?
There have been some talks for boot camp, so maybe that is happening. I think everything is still like being planned out and stuff, so I am not too sure where we are with that, but a bootcamp could happen, yeah.
Okay. Well, that could be what is required to make the difference between you and Apeks when push comes to shove. We'll just have to see it. That game obviously happening a lot later in the season. But for now, Hearthbeat, thank you for the interview. If you have any closing words or messages that you'd like to send out, the floor is yours.
I think just to the fans, follow us in this journey. Split 1 is going to be a bumpy road, but we hope that Split 2 is going to be a way smoother road where we can show what this team actually can do. The potential unlocked, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing you put that key in, give it a twist, and realize that potential that you have told us about here. So thank you again, Hearthbeat, for joining, and yeah, that's the interview done.